So I did want to
Cool.
start with one of the main questions of why I wanted to chat with you today. And thank you very much as well for sitting down with me.
Yeah.
Very cool. And
So cool to be invited.
well, the big question that you would have talked about probably more than anything else,
Mm.
what is fascia?
Gosh, it's such a buzzword in the health industry right now. And it's so exciting because it needs to be known. It's been ignored for 500 years in medical history. And the doctors are now saying this is this amazing organ or system that we've totally ignored. I don't know if you know historically, but when Leonardo da Vinci and all his buddies started dissecting 500 years ago, they used to throw all the fascia in the bin and then just look at the muscle, like, oh, look at that quad, it's amazing. And they would, lay it on a table and see it as one entity. And then they would look at a calf and then a foot. But the fascia was just chucked out, but the fascial system connects all of them. And I think what people are realizing now is that we're actually one system, not parts. And it's just a great, fresh approach to healing and wellness and movement. And so that's why the anatomy trains and structural integration has been such a amazing path for me to find and to work in.
Yeah.
So when someone comes in with a sore neck, it's their foot that's causing it or their knee. And it's just mind blowing. They're like, why are you touching my feet when my neck's sore? And it's just fun. It's just like I get to play and work out like a puzzle.
Mm. How do you, for someone new, is there a way that you try and give a description of fascia and how it works? Is it similar? Do you find that it changes every time?
Mm,
How does a new client sort of get prepared for
mm,
what you're typically doing?
yeah. So generally, I say to people because no one's heard of it really in Australia and definitely not in Perth. The first thing I say is that I know I can't make your condition worse. So why don't we just give it a go? And I guess that gets a bit of a reaction because they've tried every other modality. They've been living with this for decades. And, I explain it like fascia can be really dry and really like concrete, which is why they have trouble when they're sitting down for hours. They stand up and everything's creaking because it's like the fascial system's gone dry and hardened. And then if I change their movement using pressure and using the warmth of my hands, it turns into a liquid. And within 3 to 5 minutes, they say, I haven't been able to do that movement, whether it's lifting their arm or, moving their ankle a certain way. They'll just say, how did you do that in such a short time? But the fascial system responds super fast.
When you just said before that the fascia it turns into a liquid, is that a
Mm.
metaphorical thing or is that a
No,
literal?
um, it's a scientific thing. It can turn into this rich, hydrated, like watery substance. And this might gross you out, but my teacher used to use snot as an analogy. So when you have a cold and your snot's really runny, that's healthy fascia. And when your snot turns to dry boogers, that's unhealthy fascia. So it was so funny because some of the students in my learning group in my course used to almost vomit talking about snot. And but that is like the best, you can kind of
Mm.
you can feel it and visualize it, right? So
One move is a lot easier than the other.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. And so it's body work, but it's also a re-education of your muscles. So I say to people, this is more about me telling your calf how to be, telling your ankle how to move, and re educating everything. And that's why structural integration has such a long lasting effect as opposed to something like massage, because I can change that area, get someone up to walk, feel the change, get the nervous system to connect with that change. The nervous system then tells the brain to create a neural pathway. So there's so many systems that come online,
Mhm.
like the Wi-Fi system of your body. So I can bring the Wi-Fi system back online for your foot, your knee, whatever you came for. But it wasn't just a foot and the knee, it was somewhere else that it started, that restriction.
It's really looking at the body more of a whole as opposed to sort
Yes,
of individual specific parts.
correct.
And I think we'll want to come back to structural integration and exactly one, how you even got there, but two, and what that sort of really means to you.
Mm.
To, what is a structural integration practitioner like yourself actually do? We'll get into a bit more of, but even before that, when we're sort of getting into the idea, you briefly touched on what was called anatomy trains by the
Mm.
great Tom Myers, who you've actually learnt underneath. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yeah, I've met him several times. So he was part of our early training because I guess he was so excited there was a program in Australia and a woman called Julie Hammond opened the Australasian New Zealand office in Perth. And so all the training was here, which was
Wow.
amazing because, this is the most isolated city in the world. And back when she trained, she flew to Ireland every other month to train. So really grateful for Julie. Tom came for part one of our course and then the very last part of our course. And then I flew over to Boulder, Colorado 5 years ago and I dissected a whole human with Tom Myers.
Wow. A
That
dead
was,
dead one, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, why don't you lie down and I'll show you? No, that was mind blowing, and we'll get into that
Mm.
later. But learning with Tom, I mean, you're just starstruck. He walks into the room. When I met him, he was late 60s, maybe mid 60s, and the man is just jumping out of his skin. He's so integrated with his movement. He's so vital in his life force and energy, and that's what I want to embody and pass to my clients, that you don't have to age, you don't have to feel, like everything's an effort. And he embodies that probably from all his wonderful, 50 years of working in this field. So that was the most impressive thing, that he exudes what he does.
I've seen at least a few videos of him, so he does seem like he'd be a very fun, interesting character to
Mm,
be around. So it's good to know that it's not
yeah.
just a TV or a video personality, but
Yeah.
him through and through.
Yeah.
And the anatomy trains, what we've again touched on is a his works or collection of works built on is it
I
Ida
Ida
Rolf?
Rolf, yes.
Yeah.
So he was one of the original students of Ida Rolf, and she pioneered this work, you know, I don't know how many years ago, 50 or more years ago. And she trained with a yoga master for 30 years, and she could see the amazing effects from a yoga practice, whether it's asana, meditation, breath work. And she also loved homeopathy. She loved osteopathy. So she was really into energy medicine. And so she wanted to bring all that into manual therapy because this is what we can get our hands on, but we are affecting your energy system out here. But that's what I can touch. So it's like I can yoga stretch this tiny little part of your hand that you couldn't do in a yoga class, or in another type of body work, and then change the fascial tone and the consistency, that watery consistency or concrete, and create such amazing change for someone.
Mhm. I think to me, what's incredible is that someone has an intuition about how
Mm,
these things can work,
mm,
and then we try and chase up how that fits into some kind of scientific model.
mm,
So, like prior to anatomy trains, as an example, existing, which is again a really pretty thorough work, work on what sort of how fascial systems work across the body, or at least an attempt to explain how fascial systems sort of pattern work across the
mhm,
body, and I'm sure it will develop over time.
mm.
But even, prior to that sort of knowledge, someone's already somewhat intuitively understanding some of these fascial patterns and what's
Correct.
going on from that level.
Well, Ida, for years and years, it was very mystical. It was about how does a human live in a field of gravity? And that's what she was interested in. And what Tom did was just map out all those lines so that instead of in a class saying, well, we do this technique because Ida told us to do it, he's saying, well, we do this technique because look at the way the calf, the quad, the erectus abdominis up to the sternum connects. So he just mapped out what she was teaching. And then I guess it takes away the mysticism of the work And that's fine because we can exist in anatomy, in that real body sense. And then you can also meet another client who's has awareness about energy and awareness about meditation and the quantum field. We can meet them there as well, because this work is so much more than the physical body.
Mm.
But it's a good place to start.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, it's probably easier to start with the physical,
Correct.
what you can see and feel in front of you. But
Correct.
having already spoken with, again, some previous energy practitioners, I don't know
Mm,
if that would be the right term, but
mm,
it's an area that I'm very interested in. Still know really nothing about,
mm,
but as I say to people who are potentially skeptical about that, is
mm,
you, for instance, can signal or know when someone's in a room who's in a really bad mood
mm.
without interacting or physical touching and
Yeah.
things. There's a certain sense of someone lights up a room, or you're aware of a certain energy,
Mm,
and so I think people can at least understand that there is some form of energy
mm.
type connection that's
Yes.
like palpable
Yeah.
from that
Or
side.
you go to text someone and they text you.
Mm.
Like, that is not just a coincidence. It is literally somewhere out there, there was that mental spark and connection. And yeah, it's just,
That's why I love talking to twins. I always ask the
oh,
twins.
dude.
I always love asking twins, do you ever have spooky twin moments? And I think I'm 100% hit rate for
Mm,
there is at least 100% hit rate for them saying, yeah, there's been times where one will be going to the hospital or
mm,
something, or one go through childbirth, and the other one's like in pain or aware,
mm.
or
I know.
so
Yeah.
it's those are the fun kinds of questions where
Mm.
we go, there's something going on there.
Totally. Totally.
So we started learning about anatomy, trained yourself. You sort of got into well, maybe even just how did you get into this sort of
Yeah.
stuff to begin with?
So I'm a long time meditator. I grew up with a very, cool progressive family. We meditated, we did yoga, asana. We got into homeopathy when I was in my teens. So my parents always were looking at the other things, traditional Chinese medicine and herbs in all our food and all that. So it's not surprising that I found myself in this work. I knew I would end up here, but I also spent 25 years in hospitality and loving that energy, loving that line of work and people. I really just love people. And then after, growing out of that and becoming a mum, I knew I wanted to change course. And so I opened a yoga studio in Perth. Um, and through the studio, we found structural integration, we meaning my business partner and I. And so we hosted a workshop for the anatomy trains at the yoga studio. And I just, like Alice in Wonderland, just fell straight into that rabbit hole and just was, didn't know anything about fascia, but probably knew more than I knew.
Yeah.
Because like when you do so much yoga practice, and I was like 25 years, every morning doing Ashtanga, teaching it, doing it, you're touching the fascial system, you're moving your body. And I guess I came through the work from that angle as opposed to having any experience with the human body as a practitioner. So in my course, I felt like, oh gosh, hope no one realizes that I know nothing about what it's like to treat someone in a clinic setting. And there were physios and doctors and chiros, and I felt like fish out of water. And then it just really connected with me. And halfway through the course, I realized, oh, Ida Rolf studied yoga for 30 years. Okay, I'm allowed to be here now. I can, sit at the table with all these, super smart people and really understand it. And I didn't have to get another modality out of my head. And I just was like an empty vessel, and all this information was getting poured in, and I just got it from a movement person's angle.
I think that is a very underestimated approach to learning, is
Mm,
the experience
mm,
of repetition of work and physical
yeah.
work, which, anyone that has been to the gym
Mm,
countless years in a row, they have an inbuilt understanding of their body to some
mm,
degree. Same, of course, with yoga or any
mm.
physical practice.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's second nature to kind of know or touch in with parts of your
Mm.
body to be able to contract certain things and to
Yeah.
perform certain movements and
Yeah.
just feel what's going on. And that is a bit of knowledge I think that's forgotten that it is knowledge. Yeah,
It
and
is.
it's
And it's interoception. You know, it's like tuning in and really knowing through the decades. You know, I started in my 20s and I still practice yoga now and in my 50s. So, really listening to my body for all that time and fine tuning what I didn't realize was my nervous system. And so now I kind of come at the other end of, of not the other end, but, at this point in my life. And I think, oh my God, I was fine tuning my nervous system to cope in this crazy, chaotic world. And if you look around, the people that I really wanted to um, emulate and I was most inspired by were people with the yogis, with their calm, Zen nervous systems, and meditators, of course, and that's a yogi as well. Um, so I look back now in my 20s and I think that's what I was looking for, and that's why I connected with the work because I think I would be quite lost without that strong practice.
well, it's also hard as well for people that might not have done much of whether it be yoga or meditation.
Mm.
You don't know what you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and again, the skill of checking in with oneself
Mm.
is not an easy one. It's not
Mm-hmm.
one that comes
Mm.
without again the same sort of work. So having the knowledge of what's going on with your body at a
Mm.
physical level is one thing, but then also having another bit of knowledge of how are you feeling from emotional, spiritual state of mind
Mm.
is also another difficult one. Out of
Mm.
interest, do you find yourself? Do you find it difficult to make big decisions? I ask because I'm just intrigued with the idea that for some certain decisions a lot of the time you're just trying to get out of your way, and if you can listen to yourself really well,
Mm.
I suspect, and in my own case, that's been a more effective means of than just me trying to like rationalize
Mm.
sometimes. But
Yeah,
yeah, how do you find it?
getting out of your head and dropping into the second gut, your actual stomach, the second brain, I should say, and I think that's what ultimately we do in clinic as structural integrators. Get the brain out of the way, and I'm going to talk to your knee. I'm going to talk to your back, and then your brain's going to try and work it out. But I want your brain to get out of the way and forget about the content of trying to stand straighter, of, oh, yeah, yeah, I'll do that more. And I go, I love that you want to do that more, but just forget about it and your body will do that more,
Yeah,
you
okay.
know?
It's almost like again, trying to build an intuition for
Mm.
these things um, can be more effective than simply trying to again think through
Mm.
certain things.
Because the body keeps the score, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all in our fascial system. I mean, it's every trauma, every memory, every painful thing, every joyful thing is in your fascial system.
How do you, when you say it's in the fascial system, do you mean it's physically in the fascial system or expressed in the fascial system? How do you think about that?
All the layers. It's energetically, emotionally, mentally, physically in the fascial system. It's where everything is stored. It's this sensory rich organ that then tells every other system how to be and what to do. And if you stubbed your toe, in the time it takes for your nerves to tell your brain, oh, the toe's stubbed, and then the brain goes, oh, let's fix the toe, the fascial system's already done it. It's already, that's how quick it is.
So when someone's got a fascial issue that you're working with,
Mm.
do you think about it in terms of emotional issues? Do you try and address emotional issues, or again, are you
Mm.
more and I think although we're jumping around, it's what I always do anyway. But are you more inclined with the sort of physical work that you do with
Mm.
someone, or again, do you find that it's a bit of a mixture? You
Mm.
incorporate the emotional side.
It's such a mixture, and I think I mentioned a little earlier. I meet people where they're at, so I get a triathlete who wants to run an ultra marathon, and so they want to run faster. I will get their legs working so well and feeling so good. But if someone comes in like a grown man in their late 50s and says, I've been bullied all my life. I'm here because of that. I love that. They're there for the nervous system. They know it's in their body. They know that there's tension. They're just sick of living with that feeling in their body. So I don't, it's not one size fits all. Every session's different. Um, I, and then, the guy that wants to run an ultra marathon, by session 5 or 6, they might say, oh, yeah, this happened to me when I was young. And this is how it made me feel. Then all the other stuff comes up, right? Eventually, because trust is built between me and the client. And I meet them where they're at on that day. And, it's just this changing, morphing thing. And I feel like I just strip away all the parts of them that don't serve them anymore and create a new, better version of them. And then let them out into the world. That's kind of the framework of the 12
Mhm.
series of the work.
And again, I'll go into a bit more detail about the 12 series. When we're talking about fascia, um, I also wanted to jump into, you sort of mentioned before, you've done a dissection, in fact,
Mm.
with Tom Myers. How did that change your appreciation for the fascial tissue? Again, you sort of mentioned that you sort of use the analogy of healthy fascia as sort of like
Mm.
loose boogers or whatever, like
Runny snot.
runny snot, and dried out fascia
Mm,
is sort of like the hard snot.
mm,
And so, is how did you appreciate, or what was the
mm,
appreciation, I guess, from actually going into the body
the
itself?
body. So they were like 5 or 6 dissection tables, and each table had a lecturer, a lead dissector. And I just wanted to be on Tom's table because I knew that he loves talking, he loves sharing, he knows so much. And so one day I was dissecting with him, and he said to me, Gigi, pick up the fascia of the forearm. So, we've dissected the skin off and reflected all the muscles of the forearm. And he got me to pick it up, and the whole arm came up with it. It's so strong. It's got this, it's like a rope that, a rope is made up of lots and lots and lots of fibers. Well, as a group, those fibers are strong. They can, lift up, depending on what it's intended for, a very heavy load. But that one thread on its own that makes up the rope can't lift up a heavy weight.
Mm,
But the fascial system's the same. It's lots and lots of dense, compact, fluid tissue, and it can stretch and lift up something heavy. And then we could drop the arm, cut off that piece of fascia, drop it on the metal dissection table, and it's like a blob of water. So it can contract and it can be lengthened.
mm,
And so that's what causes movement, you know. If I get restriction, it's because the fascial system is dry and I can't quite bend it. And it might be from overuse, underuse, injury. So then I get in there, and what I saw on the dissection table is I can get in there and just change the quality of the fascia, and then there's more range, there's more movement, there's more freedom. Did that answer
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah,
I
yeah,
feel?
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like I went into like this whole.
No, no, it was that's exactly what I was interested in, was just the
Mm,
hands-on. I mean, it's all well and good to
mm,
for me right now. I have a sense of fascia from
mm,
outside the body, but I don't
mm,
have a great sense of it from within it. From
mm,
actually being able to experience what does it look, feel, and how does
mm.
it adapt based on movement. And
Yeah,
although there's going to be a limitation to that because cadaver is not a live tissue anymore, and so there's going to be
yeah,
some. It's a proxy to how
yeah.
the fascial tissue works, right? But
But the reason I flew to Colorado was because we went to the only lab in the world that does live tissue dissection. So it's not a cadaver that's been in formaldehyde. It is fresh. There's blood in the veins. There's, it doesn't get more real than this. And and that's why I went there. And it was the best thing I've ever done in my career. I highly recommend it to you. I'll probably go again one day. But after that, I would be working on someone and I would just be like, oh, hang on a minute. What am I doing? Oh, because I was just like, I could fall right into the body. I could swim all through the layers.
I just every now and then I see the arm get right, and I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna be able to hear through that.
I'm very
Yeah, moving
passionate.
around.
But yeah, I really feel like I've swum in those waters. I've seen the bone. I cut the femur off the hip joint and I looked at the ball going into the socket and then it's just the most mind-blowing thing. The human body is a complete work of art
Mm.
and it's marvelous.
It's yeah, that's I think it'd be worthwhile. Do you feel like you almost need to go into a live dissection anatomy class to really appreciate the fascial tissue?
100%. Because, a poster or a book is it's just a representation. It's not the real thing. And look, there's no fascia on there, right?
Mm.
There's connective tissue and there's ligaments and tendons, but there's nothing like doing a dissection and touching it and feeling it. And, we sawed through the cranium to look at the brain. I mean,
Crazy.
crazy. And I thought I was going to be like so grossed out. I was like right in there. Just, I don't know who I became. I became like this super, like, superhuman anatomy nerd and could not get enough.
Were there a few people struggling at all with the live
Yeah.
that
Yeah. I had colleagues running out vomiting. There was this guy, beautiful guy from LA. He just would not pick up the scalpel. He said, "I'll just watch." He just stood around and kind of just watched us, and we were like getting
getting
in
in there?
there, and the woman behind me, she dissected out the eyeball, and she was showing me the optical nerve connect like insertion, and I was like, "Wow, when do you ever look at the back of an eyeball?"
Yeah, that's a
And
wild one.
it's just wild. And then there was a midwife. She was dissecting on a table with a woman, because there were men or women donors. And so then anytime you find something interesting, you can call out to the whole group and say, if anyone wants to see the uterus, come and see the uterus. And we're all like, drop tools, run over there. And she's giving us this little mini lecture about the uterus
Mm.
and the ligaments and, her amazing knowledge of this intimate part of women, you know?
Very cool. It's a very different learning experience.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
I'll probably have to do it at some point, yeah.
I'm gonna make you do it.
Um, so, uh, going through that, I can understand how again you'd have like a really good appreciation for the feel of it and the map of it in your brain as well. About when you're working on someone, you've got that sort of visceral experience,
Mhm.
and so you can sort of match that with also what you're feeling and the changes and
Mm,
the expectation of what's happening there.
mm,
I read about as well that when we're looking at fascial work and issues, that you talked about sort of strain patterns, things that can bring on whether it be the drying out, the stickiness of
mhm,
these fascial issues.
mm,
What do you mean by strain patterns when you sort of talk about that from the
mm.
fascial side?
So the reason we do a body reading at the start of every session is because if the knees come in medial, like a knock-kneed pattern, that's a strain 24/7 for that person. And then they go to run, and then they go to ice skate. I don't know, I made that up. That's causing a lot of strain on ITB, adductors. Then the knee joint, isn't balanced. So then if it comes medial, it does that. So anything in the field of gravity that is not neutral is a strain. So my job is to make all the horizontal joints neutral. So it could be head, it could be shoulders, it could be, pelvis, anterior tilt, posterior tilt. So then I look at the person from all four angles. I write notes, and then I do the series. I do the session that I'm in when they turn up. So should we talk about the 12
Yeah, let's
steps?
do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm most passionate about structural integration is that You don't come and see me for decades. I'm not interested in just doing the same thing to you and getting nowhere. We do the series because over 12 sessions, I'm going to change your patterns. And like any project, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And by the end of the 12th series, people get a bit nervous, like, oh, I can't believe it's finishing. And, I don't want it to ever end. But the ending is me letting you go and experiencing your body in gravity for the next 2 months to 3 years. And then you come back for maintenance. But if I don't give you the chance to integrate, that's the second half of the name, structural integration. I change your structure and then you go off and you integrate it. So I
Eh,
don't want anyone to be dependent on me because I believe once you've been changed structurally, you can heal yourself.
So this 12 series, so is that developed by Tom Myers and Ida
Ida
Rolf's
Rolf.
group? Ida Rolf?
Mm.
Okay.
So Ida Rolf did a 10 series. Tom Myers has added 2 sessions. One is the spiral line, which Ida Rolf, she did address it, but in the other parts of her 10 series, whereas Tom saw the spiral line as a really big part of disorganization in the body. So it might be at the feet, it could be a pronation or supination.
And when you, sorry, just for the listeners, what do you mean by like a spiral line?
Yeah. So the spiral line is session 4 in the Anatomy Trains 12 series. And it's about a rotation in your body. And if I don't deal with the rotation in your body at this early point of the 12 series, then as we get deeper into the middle sessions, which is the deep, smaller muscles, then we've lost that opportunity to change um, that part of your body. So it's like a recipe, when I make a meal, I have to follow a recipe.
Hmm.
So the 12 series gives me a framework to work in because if you came in and I didn't have the recipe and I would be like, look at Tom, what does Tom need? Well, I would be all over the shop. But the series gives us, okay, front line. What's happening in Tom's front line? How does it affect his symptoms? Let's say you came in with 3 symptoms. I'm always thinking about those symptoms in the recipe
Yeah.
in every session.
And by the lines, so again, I think we hinge back on Anatomy Trained, the book written by Tom
Mm,
Myers, sort of
mm,
going through how these fascial systems sort of work as a collective, or how he's viewed them as these patterns running through the body, how you can dissect them off of a
mm,
cadaver as well. So
mm,
sort of reinforcing what you're seeing with the dead bodies onto the theory of how these structural things work. And each line is a particular sort of pattern of the fascial tissue that has been examined, looked
mm,
at, and can be again removed as one piece
mm,
from the anatomy body, right? And so for each of these lines, the spiral lines sort of being one of them, you're specifically going through a foot to head or toe to head or head to
mm.
toe type fascial work in a
Yeah,
particular direction or type or bunch of
correct.
directions, right?
Correct. So if you're an anterior tilter, which means your pelvis comes forward, tilts forward like Beyonce is a classic example. She's got this awesome booty. Her pelvis tilts forward for that
Booty
shape.
pop.
Yep. I wish I had that. I'm a posterior tilter. So then I would lift her quads, but I would drop my quads. So then you've got this system of like a almost like you're working with a puppet, I'm going to lift to get that arm movement or that hip movement. And so we're playing with those lines as guy wires of these bones, and the fascial system can tell the muscle to move the bones in a different way if it's hydrated.
Okay.
And then the bones, if they're in a hydrated sea of healthy fascia, the bones float home. Your bones finding the home in your body is going to be different to me and the next person. So I just create the change, and then the person walks in a week later, 2 weeks later, and their bones have shifted. And then I body read them again, and I do another session.
That's right, because that's one of the big ideas behind the sort of, I guess, maybe fascial movement as
Mm,
well, right? That the idea that everything sits around the bones is probably what we're more familiar with, is how we sort of view the body and how it functions. But in this system, you're saying that the body doesn't sit around the bones sort of float within the body. And so it's not that you change the bone position to change your structure, but it's the soft tissues, it's the pull
Mm,
of that the bones are sitting in. By
mm,
adjusting that, you'll actually shift the posture. Is that
yeah, correct.
tensegrity, right?
Yeah. Have you seen a tensegrity model?
I've seen only the ones that Thomas Myers have.
Oh,
Do you have one?
I have one.
Oh, grab.
Let me just grab it.
We love props.
I know. It's so fun.
Okay.
So, I bought this in Colorado when I was with Tom because I love it. It's such a fun toy. So, this can be shoulders and arms, and this can also be pelvis and legs. And look at the way if this is the front of the body of a shoulder, of the upper body, and behind on my side is rotator cuff, right?
Yeah.
Pecs, rotator cuff, deltoid. So if the rotator cuff on this side is tight or twisted or, too high, look how it changes the whole structure.
Yeah.
It's not just isolated. It's all, if I have a tight trapezius and it's higher because I'm right-handed and I play the violin, this is how much it can disorganize the body.
It's a very cool concept, which I'm surprised, I didn't hear about in, during physio
I
or
know.
lecture or coursing. Quickly show it up to the camera so they can
I
see it.
know. Okay, so I'm going to be a tight pelvic floor,
Hmm.
right? Or actually, I'm going to be a tight hamstring and look at how it affects the pelvic floor.
And hopefully they can see on the camera as well that the sticks, which are, I guess, the analogy for the bones, none of them are touching. They're the ones that are actually floating, so,
Mm,
really between
mm,
the structure of the guide wires, as you
yes.
sort of mentioned before.
And so I'm hydrating the soft tissue, the black strings. But guess what? Bones are also soft tissue, covered in fascia, but I can't touch a bone except for, like, say, a hip bone. I can, the ASIS, I can palpate. But I can affect change to a bone, but I can do it better with all the soft tissue around it.
Because the guide wires all lead into the bone, into the periosteum, and it
Mm,
sort of goes one into the other, right?
correct. And, I heard this cool story about Tom Myers and how he wrote the book. Do you want to hear
Yeah,
it?
I do, yeah.
So, my main lecturer for part 3 was this amazing woman called Lou Benson, and Lou Benson was the director of education for anatomy trains. Just the most inspirational ninja of structural integration. And so she's from Boston, so smart, so beautiful, so warm. So she was living, I think she was traveling with Tom Myers, and they were they were doing a teaching tour. And Tom had made up this game called the Anatomy Trains at the Rolf Institute because he was like, everyone's talking about one muscle and then another muscle, but actually it's like train lines. You catch the Fremantle to Perth train and you have to stop off at every stop. But at peak times, you go Fremantle, Claremont, Claremont, Perth. I made that up, but so then these train lines can be express trains or every station,
Hmm.
right? So then he made up a game to teach the awareness of the fascial system like a train system in the body. And then other teachers started to teach it at the Rolf Institute because they heard about it. And he thought, oh my God, that's my intellectual property. So he just sat up one night till 4 a.m. and just bashed out the book, published it, and it was his IP and intellectual property. And so that's how the book
Oh,
came
wow.
about.
Yeah.
And now it's sold millions of copies, and it's like edition 4 now, I think. But Yeah,
Very cool. So sort of
super cool.
was coming up with the analogy, and then as it sort of caught on, he was like, "Hmm,
Mm.
I better put this down,
Yeah.
and make sure that this is, yeah, it's aware that this is where this sort of body of work's coming from."
Mm. It's brilliant because, um, from joint to joint, from your foot to your knee, that's an express train line because it's from joint to joint. But then in the deeper sessions, sessions 5 to 8, we do all the local trains, all the little muscles, flexor hallucis longus, tibialis posterior. They're the little muscles that actually cause the strain and patterns, and then the big muscles have to go along with for the ride. So that's how the layers of the anatomy and soft tissue awareness is displayed in the train lines.
Yep. So you sort of, yeah, as you said before, the smaller stops you're saying are the smaller little muscles that still make a big impact on the postural
Mm.
system.
They're the culprits.
Right, but you start off initially with sort of the larger express
Yes.
trains,
Yeah.
the larger systems.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why do we start with, or why do you
The
start
bigger
with,
muscles
yeah,
to soften the the surface to then go deep. If
right,
I if you came in and I went straight to your psoas major, you'd probably never come back. I have to like get your rectus abdominis, working properly. I have to get your obliques working properly. And then at session 5, I can kind of get in there and, sneaky my way in because all that fascia is already prepared for me to go deep.
right, okay. So then through the 12 series, are you so each particular session you're saying you follow a specific fascial line as per written by Tom Myers, and that's a series sequence. So you're going through, you're starting off with the larger express areas,
Mm-hmm.
you're working down to the smaller areas or
Mm-hmm.
the deeper layers of fascial tissue. And how long along the journey are you expecting to see changes for someone?
Gosh, everyone is so different. And that's an excellent question because, everyone wants a miracle cure.
Right?
I have clients that feel different from session 1, and they're just locked in and they just can't believe how little time it took. Then I have clients that, you know, feel the changes. Yeah, they're feeling okay. Oh, then last week it was, worse because healing's up and down. And then those people don't feel the changes till after I'm done in the integration time because your real changes don't really start till after session 12. So, yes, there's changes all the way along, but it's actually after that someone grows into their new body, posture, relationship to gravity.
Do you check in with people down the
Mm,
line?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. And I always say to them, we have to have 2 months minimum, no intervention. Some people love the work so much, they come back to the day of the 2 months. And then I had this guy who was an architect, and he sat for 12 hours just about every day at his desk doing tiny micro movements with his, you know, index finger on a mouse. And I thought, oh, he is going to need more maintenance. He came back after 3 years and said, I have felt fantastic for 3 years. And, he sits at a desk all day long. Click, click. So you can't predict who is going to unfold and integrate better than others. Um,
How do you even know if something like this is for you? Right, like
mm,
if you've got a broken bone, you sort of know, all right, I need to go to a
mm,
GP to get an X-ray or to
yeah,
whatever. You sort of know that process. If I've
yeah.
got a cold, maybe I get some cold and flu, or I go down and
Mm,
get some natural supplements. You sort
mm,
of know that route. How do you know if you're going to need some fascial
mm.
work?
I guess because it's so unknown in Australia. And by the way, I've never done any marketing. I've done, a little bit of marketing here and there. I think 10 years ago, I had some postcards, but now it's just all word of mouth. So people don't really know they need it, but they've heard from their auntie, their sister, their work colleague, or they might just say, you look amazing. What have you been doing? And they'll say, oh, I've been working with, the structural integrator. Here's the number. And it's just all word of mouth and which is the best marketing.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm 10 years in the work next year, which is
Congrats.
super exciting. Um, and I only have two hands, and I always say we need more structural integrators because I'm so busy. I've closed my books for the year, and I won't take anyone new till next February.
Wow.
So the work speaks for itself. You know, yes, I love it. I'm passionate. I study all the time, but the fascial system is the star here.
So how's your practice changed? You've been doing it for 10 years
Mm.
now. How do you feel it's changed over that time?
Ah, I work a little bit less. I think when I first started, I was 6 days a week, so into it, wanted to touch everyone, wanted to feel everything, and I just didn't even want a day off. I was so into it, and being a new business and working from home, or like then I had to get better boundaries and look after myself. And I'm getting older, but yeah, that's how it's changed, I guess. I'm working one day less, which is nice. That's very, very recent. Um, I used to be really affected when someone didn't come back after a few sessions, but I also understand that this isn't for everyone. And so now when someone doesn't come back, I know it's more about them and their process through the work than, oh, it's not about liking me or not liking me. I think that's been a really great thing to let go of.
It's always a hard one as a practitioner because whether it be ego or whatever else, you want to be able to fix people,
I know.
whoever walk through the door, and
Yeah.
ultimately you can't
Yeah.
have a 100% success rate
Mm,
for anything that you do.
yeah.
And it's hard to guess what the success rate, or maybe even just what the failure rate is probably
Mm,
but I would guess, I would say for most practitioners, it's probably around, I would have thought at least the 20% mark.
mm,
So maybe 2 in 10 maybe don't get quite the result that you're after.
mm.
Would that be similar for this? Do you have any idea, or like
Yeah.
say,
You know, um,
because I think it's important to set up realistic expectations
yes.
as well. Because whether it be the work isn't right for them, the person's not ready for the work, there's a lot of
Mm,
different factors that go into whether or not
yeah.
the experience is going to
Yeah.
work.
And this is where it gets to the mystical, esoteric side of being human. I'm stirring up, pardon me,
You're right.
I'm stirring up all this, like the stuff in your fascia, which we talked about is emotional, mental, deep, deep stuff. It hasn't been stirred up ever like this. So some people, it stirs it up and it's too much. Some people, it's stirred up and they're like, yes, get it out of me. So we also have this ethos that we don't set out to fix people. We are here to change the environment that their bodies are in, their bones, their soft tissue, their fascial system. They actually fix themselves in the time between our sessions. So, yes, it's important you come if you want to do it. What's important is the time between when you're out living, integrating.
How do you, is there certain things people are doing in order to try and improve the integration side? So
Mm,
when you say structural integration, my current understanding is that, you're creating structural changes through the fascia.
mhm.
The integration is just simply just through movement and
Mm.
working
It
through,
could be.
potentially even working through emotional stuff as well.
Mm,
Is there any things that you tend to, yeah, ask people to
mm.
do as homework for that sort of thing?
Um, it's great question because I have a client who's a physio, and I loved working with him, and he loved the work as well. He gives homework and he gives worksheets, and whereas I'm like, no homework, just feel it, just do less, do what you love doing. You love to run, run. You love to play golf, golf, yoga. You're a couch potato. Well, you're gonna get up off the couch and grab your packet of chips, like that. Fascia just loves movement. And I mean, I'm exaggerating to make that point about couch potatoes, but there are people that are like that. And
Mm.
I don't want them to start running marathons. They're going to, hurt themselves. So I just say, walk and have a bath. If you do too much, do less. If you do less, do more. Like, again, meeting someone where they're at. But some home I may give them is just breathing properly, breathing better. Um, yeah, chewing their food more. And I sound like such a mum. Chew your
Food
food.
more.
But chewing is so great for all your bones and your, jaw muscles and tension, and because we get into the head, neck, and jaw as well in structural integration. We, I say to my clients, I will touch you where no one's touched you before. You know, we, and I do. And in the early days, I was like, oh, how am I going to touch a guy in that, we do adductors, and adductors are real, deep in the pelvis, like along the ischial ramus.
Mm,
And I'm like, "Mm." But now I just get in there because it's like men need their hips opened and moved. And when they get up, they get it.
mm,
And if I was too shy and too weird about it, then I'm not doing, it's just anatomy. It's just a body.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you're trying
yeah.
to do the work justice, and
Mm,
obviously you make people as comfortable as you can and things. But
mm.
yeah, I mean, even now, in a lot of the physio practice work that I do body reading at the beginning, and so I do
Oh,
ask people to strip down,
yeah,
and
great.
and every time you kind of like, look, you absolutely don't have to. It's just to do the work. Ideally, we
Mm.
do it.
I
Some
want to
bodies,
see.
exactly. I
Yeah.
say all kinds of bodies. Not everyone wears appropriate clothing. That's fine. Okay, we work around that. That's fine. But
Yeah.
people, as you say, there are some areas that you're getting into, or there are some things that people aren't as familiar or comfortable with. But it is really important, I find, for the work to be able to get a sense of how is the body hanging and sitting and looking.
Mm,
So it gives you that intuition as to what do we think's happening here?
mm,
Why is it set up in this certain way?
mm,
And that's been one of the joys so far I've found is the
mm.
body reading side. I find is like one of the, as you said, I think earlier, it's sort of like putting together a puzzle piece.
Yeah. It's like, why is that shoulder doing that? But then they talked about their left hip being sore, and you can see that connection, of the contralateral hip to that shoulder. Yeah. And then the penny drops, and then you look at their foot, and it's like, ah, ah. And so, like, my logo is all about connecting dots. It's like, that's, I guess, what I wanted to convey. I look at you as a whole, and there's dots to connect, and then let's make it work better,
Mm.
you know.
It's a very cool. Are you able to do any of this stuff on yourself?
I do a lot of stuff on myself because I know where I want to work, but there's nothing better than letting someone do it
Mm.
to you. But I teach people a lot of like neck stuff where I just show them how to, release, because I want people to be empowered to not need me. So I show a lot of vagus nerve resets. I do a lot of breath um, teaching, you know.
Is there a particular favorite you'd want to quickly share with whoever's listening now?
Oh gosh. Okay. This is really cool. So I don't know if you want to put your mic down and
Yeah,
do it with
I
me.
will.
Okay. So I want you to just turn your head left and right
Turn your head left and right.
and feel which side is tighter. 'Cause there's always one side that's tighter.
Yeah. Left side for me is a bit tighter.
Okay. So with your left hand, I want you to pick up your entire ear in parts, obviously. So you're pulling on the lobe.
Yeah.
I'll
Pulling
do the
on it.
right side to show the camera. I'm rubbing the lobe, and then I'm stretching all the way up to the middle, to the top of the ear. Feels so nice, doesn't it?
Actually does, yeah.
Oh, it's like I could just be here all day. It's like a little yoga stretch for your ear. And now, put your arm down and then check that side.
Yeah. Significantly better. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, significantly
It's
better.
like now the
I'm
right
not
looks,
lying either. I'm not just saying that for the sake
yeah.
of it, but no, significantly better.
And the right side now looks tight. I
Yeah.
saw you moving, and now the right has less range than the left.
Yeah, correct.
So
Yeah.
then you want to do the other side. But that's like, think of all the fascial connections to the ear. And it's like temporalis and, the whole head has fascia,
Yeah.
the Gaia aponeurotica. All the neck muscles come up and attach here, trapezius. There's, jaw.
Just did the right side, feels great now as well.
I
That's
know.
crazy, that's good.
So I love showing that to
Mm.
someone because they say, "Oh, I was at my desk all day and I've been working so hard and I can't turn my head." And I'm like, just do that. Stop and just breathe and do that. I just took a deep breath because I think for the whole of our podcast, I was probably shallow breathing because we were like talking and getting all excited. So I was like, then I teach people how to breathe, stop and just,
Nice, it's both one, the breath is also very little calming, a reminder just to a little bit sink it a little bit lower, not the
mm,
top of the lungs. But I always love those tiny little things that you can do for
mm,
someone to create a bit of a spark of, oh, what's going on? I think those little ones are really powerful
mm,
moments because
yeah,
they provide a bit of an in for a lot of people that might still be like, hear
mm,
what you're saying, but I don't
yeah,
quite get what you mean by this fascial thing. Is that
yeah.
a little bit not sure?
Yeah, is it a gimmick,
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so actually, can I just also say, I would love to talk about scar work with
Yeah,
you.
I've good. That was gonna be one of my next questions, but let's
Yeah.
get into it for
But,
sure.
this is what I mean. I could talk all day about what I do because there's so many facets. But the scar work, I learnt that a year after my certification from an American woman called Sharon Wheeler. And she was Ida Rolf's artistic experiment. So she wasn't allowed to look at any anatomy books. She had to be this artist and she had to work and feel. And every time she'd kind of look over at someone else looking at the books, and Ida Rolf would be like, "You're not allowed to look. You're my experiment." And so she pioneered scars and scar release. And she said to Ida Rolf, "What do I do about scars?" Because she could feel it as she worked along the fascial fabric. And Ida Rolf said, "You do nothing." And Sharon thought, "No way." Because it's like this tight, gristly, like, do you have any scars?
I got one up on my shoulder
Yeah.
there.
What's that from?
That one's from a Latarjet surgery for to stabilize the shoulder would dislocate. So they put a little bit of bone up there to stop it from anterior dislocation.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've done one of those as well.
Oh, have you?
Yep. Talk about that later
Yeah.
over a coffee. But so then she started doing scar work, but she was kind of doing it secretly because Ida Rolf said don't do anything with scars. And after like 50 years, she's like, I have to teach this. So in her 60s, she started traveling around the world teaching scar work, and I was lucky enough to learn from her. She's a complete magician, and now my clinic is, I don't know, a quarter of it would be scar work.
Wow.
Cesarean scars, mastectomies, hip replacements. I mean, everyone's had surgery just about, and everyone's got a scar, even a non surgical scar, like I fell over and cut my leg on a piece of glass. That's a scar. And that disrupts the fascial fabric, causes adhesions. So if you think of your whole body and the fascial system like a wetsuit, and then you've cut it here. So then someone's got the wetsuit and sewn it up.
Yep.
It's look at the shoulder.
Yep. Where the tension's been pulled
Yeah,
from.
the opposite shoulder. Look, and then the hip, and then the spine has to come along with this tension because it's tight. It's like because skin is so you know it's this and it's like it's soft, but it's tight. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The
Yep. Sort of
skin, the
elasticy type.
surface tension of the
Yep.
skin. Correct. So scar work is just blows my mind. When someone comes in to do the 12 series and they have a huge scar, I start there. I can release, and they're already feeling like, oh, I can stand up taller. My neck stop hurting because I'm not pulled into this pelvic area, the cesarean scar or the abdominal, even keyhole surgeries adhere deep, and the adhesions are like chaotic. It's not just clean exactly where it's been cut. It attaches to organs, it attaches to bone, it attaches and affects gait, walking, running.
So what is there anything? So obviously you do scar work specifically, and I'm guessing it's just a particular style of moving, mobilizing the scar, just as the
Correct.
other fascial work is.
Yeah.
Is there again? Can you normally break down, if that's the right terminology for it, the scar tissue within that one session? Does someone need to do their own?
Mm.
at home as
Yeah.
well?
I do teach scar release at home, but it's so different if the hand is connected to the brain that's connected to the scar. You kind of need someone to do it. You can teach them basic things to give them the empowerment. But yesterday alone, I worked on a woman who had a cesarean scar. And then she also had a scar for when she was 3 years old. She almost died. And I think she actually said, I did die for a few seconds. And so they cut her from like above her belly button down to her pubis to open her up to see what was going on. They couldn't find anything and they sewed her back up and then she came back to life. Like it was really random. That's how she relayed the story. But so from when she was 3 to now a grown woman, that scar's grown with her
Mm.
and stretched and stretched and stretched. And then she had a baby. So then the scar stretched this way and then she had a cesarean. So her scar was incredible. And the feedback I got after the scar,
Oh, just your arm was in the way,
oh,
so
yeah,
continue.
sorry.
Go good.
The feedback I got after the session was that for all her life, she didn't want to touch that scar. It was so scary and so um it was so it was something she wanted to not connect with, and scars are traumatic.
Mm.
And then what I do when I release a scar is I give them back the permission to feel safe to touch it, to feel safe to make it integrate and be a part of them. And she immediately sat up and touched her scar and she said, I never ever touch it. And touch is healing, right? Touch is
Speaking of touches healing.
I know. He's my therapy dog. And yeah, touch is so amazing. And it's just so sad that she also said she had to conveniently heal quickly because it was to keep everyone else comfortable. That's the feeling she had when she was 3. Oh, I don't want my mum and dad to worry. I don't want my family to worry. I'm just gonna heal on my own and not make a fuss of it, you know?
Yep. So I'm enjoying this little.
This little cuddle.
Yeah.
I know, he's
He
super
just
cuddly.
rubs his head into you. It's so cute.
I know, he's gorgeous. And then sneezes. But yeah, scars are like a whole different language in the fascial system, and
Mm.
I love scars. Like, I just want to, I see a scar and I just have to
Just do something
ask
for it.
about it,
Yeah.
what happened to you? And I know it's really intimate, and I don't do it all the time anymore in public, but yeah, I love it when a scar walks into the clinic.
So are there places also so the structural integration type of work? So some of that's available here to learn in Perth. It sounds like,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Is there scar work that is that sort of stuff available around here as well?
Yeah. A student of Sharon Wheeler. Are you okay?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good.
A student of Sharon Wheeler, who's called Emma Holly, an Englishwoman, she has now taken Sharon's work into hospitals and the medical settings.
Mm,
And she's really brought it to the mainstream, which is so important because
yeah.
Sharon's, not interested in that space. Because, she's such a magician and such a creative. Whereas Emma can present this work to doctors and speak in symposiums for breast cancer and, yeah, surgeons. So she's amazing. I've trained with her twice and I love what she does. Um, I just finished my scar work for oncology course. And even though I've been working in that field and in that way, it's just great to hear the latest research and know more about radiotherapy and chemotherapy. So, yeah, I've had a big year of learning
Mm.
this year.
I was going to say, maybe I'll just touch on some of the more common scars for people, but as you say, probably the C-section scar would be
Mm,
a big one. Even for either breast implants or reductions, another
mm,
big scar.
mm,
Also, as any sort of surgeries as well, whether it be sort of from ACL kind of
mm.
scars.
Yep, knee replacements.
How do you know if these scars are not integrated, or what can we sort of do
You mean
to,
before I work?
yeah, before
Yeah,
you work on?
yeah.
So there's people, as you say, that are there's probably most people have a scar of some kind
Mm.
or another.
Look at professional athletes that have to keep having repeated surgeries for footy injuries or
Mm,
whatever. So I treated this guy who's a yoga teacher. He swims to Rottnest. He's just a super like active guy, and he broke his forearm when he was 15 or 13 playing soccer. He was a very high level soccer player, and the scar was so huge along his forearm that he couldn't supinate the arm. Oh, sorry, pronate the arm. Thank you. And so it was just stuck. And when when you do yoga, you have to move your arm in all the planes. And I released his arm, and he went home, called his mum, and said, "Oh my God, my arm can move like a as well as my left arm now."
mm,
I mean, that is just huge for him.
massive, yeah.
And for his mum, he called his mum because his mum's seen the journey of his injury, subsequent surgery, subsequent, rehab. Um, because the scar adheres deep to the bone and the joint and the muscles and
So all scars are probably worthwhile, at least considering whether or not there's an impact going on from
Mm.
function, form, and
Correct.
things to do about. And there's a couple other things that you mentioned as well that you look into that I thought we'd quickly touch on: the neurovascular, structural
Mm,
integration, and also your visceral manipulation,
mm.
right?
Yeah, so the neurovascular stuff is blows my mind. I mean, I went into that workshop and I was like, oh, I don't really know what neurovascular means. And the nervous system, I kind of knew a little bit, but when we were all going around the room and asking, why are you here? Um, it was like, can I just let him
Yeah, yeah, you get them out, no worries. All right, we're back, everybody.
out?
Neurovascular. So you were saying before?
So there's tubes all through your body. The nerves come from the brain, the heart, the arteries and veins come from the heart, and they're intertwined with bone, muscle. They get squashed, they get stretched, they get compressed, they get like a garden hose, they get kinked. And so if someone has a tight glute, I think about the blood supply to that glute, as well as the fascia, as well as the muscle. I think about, excuse me, what's the superior gluteal artery doing? Is it compressed in the back of the hip from sitting down all day long? Excuse me. So then, what I learned from this amazing person, Kier Schumacher, is that there's this pathways, like looking at a road map, where is it stuck? And artery work is as soft as like tugging on your t-shirt left and right. Can I is it is it bound up? And so you can do that all through the body. And it's like a really gentle but powerful way to release someone's glute or someone's hip flexors.
Mm.
So, there's many ways to skin a cat. So I just love all the different tools to solve that problem for them.
Have you had any, use the example of a glute? So have you had an example of someone where you specifically
Mm,
used the
neurovascular.
neurovascular type release work?
Everyone's hip flexors.
Right, okay.
Everyone has tight hip flexors, right? They're sitting down all day long. We used to walk kilometers back in the day when we were cave people. We sit in chairs, we sit in cars, we sit on the couch. So everyone's hip flexors causes the back pain, the sciatica, so yeah, I use the neurovascular work all the time.
Is it painful?
No, gentle. And it's because, everyone's had their psoas jabbed at by a practitioner. It's not pleasant. This is pleasant.
Yeah, right.
And then in structural integration, we're always asking for movement. So when I do neurovascular work, I'm getting someone with their knee up, so they're lying down on the table and their knees up, and then they might drive their heel down and straighten their leg. It's a bit like moving the cord of your microphone
Mm,
down to the foot. So they've got their knee up and then they stretch, and I'm moving the tubes around their lumbar plexus near the belly on the left or the right. They might roll their leg in or out. So there's a lot of participation in structural integration. You're not just lying there having stuff done to you.
mm.
You're really a big part of the process. And I think that's also really empowering. That also teaches the nervous system and it creates that neural pathway.
It's funny, even from my own physio practice, in even in the early days, every time that I'd ever incorporate the client to move alongside whatever treatment that would be
Mm.
provided, the effects always seem to be either more powerful, stronger, longer lasting.
Correct.
Um, yeah, even in prior to sort of much knowledge,
Mm,
if any, about sort of fascial systems and
mm,
these other components, it always just seemed to me that the a lot of the passive work just simply wasn't as effective, albeit I'm sure there are still plenty of good passive treatments.
mm,
But again, just
mm.
clinically from my experience, it always seemed like the active
Yeah.
ones where the client was contributing with you
Mm,
always seemed to be more powerful.
100%. Because, Tom explained it to us from day one. Here's a practitioner and here's a client. In our model of treatment, it's not like the practitioner is superior and they're doing stuff to you. You're actually two equals, two intelligent nervous systems working together. And when you can make someone feel like that, it's empowering, it's powerful, it's long lasting. Um, that's why we don't let someone just lie on the table for an hour and a half. We get them up, they're walking, they're moving, they're feeling. I might ask for them to put it in words because I think sometimes that also helps it land. But also, if someone's really spaced out, then I just say, "Don't worry, I can tell you're in a process. Just lie back down and we'll do more work."
Mhm.
So I just, yeah. But
Go
you got
for
to
it.
get them up. You got to get them up to feel it.
And does this link into your visceral manipulations or?
Yeah. So that work is, we've just learnt. This amazing woman from New York came and taught a workshop in that, and we learned about the lungs, which is so it's like how we stay alive,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Breathing. And it was about releasing the lungs and adhesions from a lifetime of asthma, a lifetime of smoking, a lifetime of, bad posture. The rib cage coming forward will affect the lungs. The pregnancy, I guess, diaphragm pushing up. Um, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. So the visceral work is pretty mind blowing. I must say there's so much more to learn, but the awareness of it is really cool because it informs my scar work. So, as one example, so I did a scar session on a few people, and they recently reported back to me my bowel movements
Mm,
are just so much better when you think about the adhesions of the scar to the large intestines, the small intestines, whatever, the bowel, the rectum,
mhm,
colon, everything. It's like, yeah, you're going to be more, there's more flow
mhm,
because it's not been strangled
mm.
by the adhesions of the scar.
I tried a naval release on someone, which is like a spiraling technique through the navel,
Wow.
and that was the first thing they reported was just like, man, I had a very large movement, and I feel so good from that.
Amazing.
Always possible to be coincidence, but it's still, it's one of those fun little, ah,
Mm,
cool, all right, like
yeah,
that's a nice
totally.
insight into. And it makes sense from when you think about it in your head as well, where when you can feel that there are these adhesions around the abdominal cavity, that will affect, yeah,
Mm,
how the peristalsis and how the contraction of those elements can
mm,
actually move things along. And so by
mm,
potentially unkinking a hose, so to speak,
mm,
we might be allowing again just a much smoother activation or
mm,
a transfer of the
mm.
bowel movements to be much easier. So yeah, it doesn't. It's
Yeah.
not a difficult stretch to see how that stuff can improve things like
Yeah.
the bowel movement.
Yeah. And it's going to improve posture.
Mm,
If you do the belly button, it connects. right to the abdominal wall, which is on the other side, the anterior spine, you know? So a lot of back pain is from surgery scars or um, adhesions of organs.
Mm.
So it's just another lens, I just love putting on another lens when I look at someone's posture, not just bones and muscles and fascia.
Is there anything that you're currently also interested in? I mean, again, right now we're sort of it seems like a lot of these are already largely relational to the sort of core fascial work, right?
Mm,
Like looking at these neurovascular
mm,
bundles and areas where they get adhesed, looking at where some visceral manipulations or visceral adhesions might be.
mm,
There's still kind of an extension, it sounds like, a lot on the fascial system, but then
mm,
you just, as you say, sort of mapping over different elements
mm,
that you might be able to help unwind through the current work that you do. Are there other things that you're going to be looking into, or other things that
mm,
are sort of like making you curious at the moment?
mm. Um, we shared a little bit about, meditation. I think that meditation and unstressing your nervous system has a lot to do with your overall tension in your body. So, um, I don't um, I don't talk about the meditation much in my clinic, but people will ask me, what do you do to keep yourself the way you are, even and, showing up every day for someone. And I do, if they're curious, I do send them off to learn how to meditate because um, why not do something for yourself instead of going to see someone to get done? Meditation is a practice that you can do at home yourself, and doing a daily practice is so powerful. You'll need less practitioners if you can still your mind and calm your nervous system. So, yeah, I'm very passionate about that, and it's like a no-brainer for me.
To do it each day, to
Mm,
follow that practice.
mm,
It's something
yeah.
that I've been even speaking with my last guest, Paisley, or second last, sorry, and it was again another nice reminder of why the practice is so valuable,
Mm,
because like in anything, you stop going to the gym,
mm,
you'll start to lose the benefits of exercise or
mm,
whatever version of your exercise is. If you stop
yeah.
doing it, you'll lose the benefits. And same with things of the checking in mentally and the
Mm,
meditation. I think one of the easier ways to sort of
mm,
access that
yeah,
skill and that capacity to
correct.
do the sort of self check in.
And it's so funny because people say, "Oh, I'm too busy to meditate." That's why you gotta meditate. So, but some people also love, suffering. So that's cool as well. And some people want to get stuff done to them, and that's cool as well. That's what we're here to do, right? But I'm always trying to empower them. Mm,
Any other, we're sort of getting towards the end as well. Were there any clients in particular that sort of stand out in your mind that give a good showcase to someone out there that might be struggling with
mm,
something that was very helpful for a
mm,
particular issue that someone came in again? It sounds like you sort of work with people across all different areas and with lots of
mm,
different problems. Do you see a pattern
mm,
at all of the people that tend to come to you and the issues that they have where someone at home might be like, oh, wow, that does sound like something I've been dealing
mm.
with for a long time and haven't dealt
Yeah,
with?
yeah. Yes, all of the above. I treat people in their, I've treated kids. Kids respond really fast. I've treated, my oldest client is 94. Um,
Well,
yeah, she's amazing. Um, people, because we're getting younger as we're getting older, like, 70 is a new 60, as they say. So I've treated lots of 70-year-olds who just don't want to put up with the pain. They wanna keep active, they wanna cycle 60 Ks every day, and they wanna so I love treating those cool 70-year-olds. They're just not willing to accept where their body's at.
do you
Um,
tend to see people that have more had an issue for let's say, a year or greater, as opposed to sort of an acute type of issue, or again, both
Oh,
ways?
long patterns, long term.
Mm,
Yeah. Um, I was doing scar work on this woman. She had she had like all this intense pain after she had a second child, and so they did some surgery to help her issue, and they found that all her organs were flipped. Everything that on you and I
mm.
on the right was on her left,
Yeah,
and then
wow.
vice versa. But her heart was in the right spot, which is rare. Most people with her condition, the heart's on the right.
Yeah.
So we did some scar work, and it really helped. And then she said to me, "It's like my brain doesn't talk to the whole left side of my body." And I said, "This is what I do in the other work I do." So I do scar work, and that's what she came for. But I said, "Let's turn on the Wi-Fi for the left side of your body." And she's come and done the 12 series. She's had great success. Her left hip pain is gone. She felt numb all through her left face, gone. Her husband's not coming, her mother-in-law, her sister-in-law, that's kinda
Mm.
how it works, I guess. Yeah, that's just one case. I mean, I could talk about so many cases. I have, yeah, lots of mind-blowing moments in here. In fact, yesterday, the woman who came for scar work said to me, "Do you know that, since you've done a few people's scars, they've and they've had trouble with their fertility since a cesarean, they're now like, you're helping with fertility issues." And I was like, "Didn't know that." I mean, I know that the scar disrupts the system, and the reproductive system is right where the C-section scar is. But I said, "Really?" She said, "I can't believe no one's reached out to you to tell you." I said, "I guess people just get on with their life, and they've got a toddler, and then they're pregnant again, and then they're working and juggling 600 things." But that was yesterday, and I've been doing sky work for 8 years, and I never heard that until yesterday.
Yeah, very cool.
And I'm not gonna say, "Come to
It's
see me
yeah,
for
for
fertility,"
sure.
but it's
Yeah.
definitely gonna free up those organs.
Cesarean scars, I think big scars in particular, even in practice, I've seen them have big effects. And some of the work I've done more recently, I haven't done a lot of scar work specific. The scar work that I've done is around a system called Square One. It comes out of
Mhm.
America, which is all about the nervous system is either organized or disorganized.
Mm,
And when you interact with a scar, you'll almost always find that the nervous system finds that a threatening or a
mhm,
disorganizing input. And so you can work to rearrange how the brain senses into that area. And same sort of thing, you can have people walk away going, "Wow, it does feel just more like the other side of my body," or
mm,
it feels this now. I don't notice it. How my brain was always aware of that area, or it's less sort of touch, or
mm,
those types of indicators. And so it's been the most recent journey for me has been that in the physio world, we're interested in old history, old injuries,
mm,
but not super interested in all injuries. Now, I'm interested in all injuries and legitimately look at a toe that you broke 20 years ago
mm.
is interesting for what you might be experiencing right now in your shoulder or back.
Completely.
Whereas previously that was not accessible, or at
Yeah.
least irrelevant in
Mm,
my mode of thinking
mm.
prior to that.
Yeah.
I did want to sort of finish up, I guess, about unless, of course, if you've got also something else that you want to bring up. But you've got a little, I don't know if it's a mantra or a slogan or if it's your own or someone else's, but you had change your body about your mind.
Mm,
And I thought might give you a chance to just talk on and sort of
mm.
finish up on sort of that
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, very cool. Um, it's, that mantra, that slogan really makes sense to me because I fell off a horse when I was 19 and did a dislocation um, of my left shoulder.
Mm.
And I didn't get surgery. I never, I went to hospital. They kept me sitting there for 9 hours. I got hungry and I went home. So and you know, when you're 19, you're like, she'll be right. And I thought, God, that shoulder's never been 100%. So I did, swimming, I did yoga, I went to see chiros, I I just did what I thought I could. And then when I was studying structural integration, I never once thought about my own shoulder. I was thinking about everyone else's injuries because it was just such a big part of me that it was like my normal to have
Mm.
this dodgy shoulder, and it dislocated for 30 years. Like, I'm not even kidding you. It just would subluxate when I sweep the floor or swim or, you know, close the door at a funny angle, it would pop out. It was, really painful, but I learned how to pop it back in. So I just never really, I thought, oh, it was just my body forever. And it wasn't until I received the 12 series myself, again, not thinking about my own shoulder, that one day my shoulder was so stable because it had been worked from the front line, the back line, the lateral line, the spiral line. Want to pause it?
Yeah, we
Fine, fine. It's okay. At least
can.
it happened at the end.
That's all right. Every now and then, a little bit of like
Yeah,
hu-
life.
human lives sort of stuff as well. It's not the worst thing in the world.
So, yeah, so my shoulder, receiving the 12 series on my whole body, I mean, that shoulder would have affected my left hip, my lat dorsi, beyond what I could understand, because back then I was just thinking about my shoulder. But when I had the 12 series, my shoulder has not dislocated in 10 years. So I feel like I changed my body because my mind was still thinking bad shoulder,
Mm.
can't do a cartwheel. I can't go and do this activity because, oh, I can't, guys, I'll sit this one out. I've got a bad shoulder. And it's like, it's so great now. I can do everything.
Mm.
And I've changed my body about my mind.
Pretty
And
cool.
yeah, I've lived that. So
And so you didn't really realize it was happening until towards the end of the series?
yeah, so I'll tell you what happened.
Mm.
One night I was asleep and I was asleep like this. And I haven't been able to do this in 30 years because it would dislocate. And I remember I woke up in the middle of the night, when you're awake, but you're not really awake.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh, my arm, my arm. And I went, oh, it feels fine. And then I fell back asleep. The next morning, I was like, wow, wow, I haven't done that because it would have just popped out. And I am hypermobile. I have that type of body. But I couldn't believe that I had that moment, and that's when I realized that 12 series has just hydrated all the fascia, the bones floated home, it integrated, and now my shoulder is so stable. And it's been 10 years, and I've had it for 30 years. It's kind of mind blowing, isn't it?
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And also, I love that experience for you as well because it gives you so much confidence in the system as well,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And this is why I think this is why experience I think matters with the problems that you're trying to solve because
Mm.
um, you having that experience, as I said, it just deepens your appreciation for
Mm.
it, your understanding, and now you can understand when someone experiences their own
Yes.
transformative journey. You go, yeah,
Yes.
you sort of the power of what can be
Correct.
achieved.
Correct. But also, this is the whole thing about, like, my practitioner who did the 12 series the first time, she didn't fix me. She changed the environment of the fascial system, and my body integrated and fixed itself.
Yep.
She just got it. She just did the series. She just followed the recipe.
Mhm.
12 weeks later, off you go. Study, study, study. Life gets busy. I had a 6-year-old child at the time. And one day my arm didn't dislocate when I had it up above my head.
Yep.
So
And again, very cool for that to almost be something that you weren't completely paying attention to.
I didn't even think about my own shoulder when I studied this work.
Mm. Well,
I
you're
was,
right because you don't think about it as like as you say, it's just your normal.
yeah.
It's not something that you would ever consider. It's not going to change. It's been around forever,
Yeah.
so it's not something that
Mm.
and you're not trying to change it. You're like, ah, I've
Yeah.
accepted
I've
what
lived
it
with
is.
it. I know how to pop it back in.
Yep,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
Um, Did you have anything you wanted to leave the listeners with as
Uh,
well?
Not really. I think we've really um, talked about all my favorite things to talk about,
Amazing.
and it's been really wonderful.
We've hit a nice, as I said, I would happily as well go deeper into a lot of these. I think at risk of not losing the listeners any further, I'll say that I think we'll get into a little bit more. I suspect there'll be quite a few people that would also want to dive a little bit deeper into things
Mm,
like the scar work, or even
mm,
specifically about some of the sessions, what kind of
mm,
lines and the sort of work that gets done.
mm.
And so we'll definitely have to speak again. But I
Yeah.
really appreciate your time.
Oh, it's been awesome.
Glad that you could come through and sort of, yeah, just give us a bit of an overview of something that I think will continue to gain momentum
Mm.
and
Yeah.
something that I'm slowly incorporating into my own practice.
Mm.
And I'm sure I'll be having to go out for a live dissection or close to live, not a live, but,
Yes.
close to live
Live
dissection.
tissue.
Yeah, live tissue
Um,
dissection.
and I strongly urge you to come and try the 12 series or try a couple of sessions. I think you'll absolutely love it.
All right, we'll do that. And then then we'll have to chat about it after. So then we'll
Yeah.
have the experience
Oh,
part
yes.
as well.
Definitely. Cool.
All right, well, thank you
Looking
very
forward.
much.
Thanks, Harry.
Awesome. All right, cool. Until next time.